Hey, this is Lee Tasjan, and you're listening to Walking the Floor.
I'm walking the floor over you.
Walking the floor.
I'm walking the floor. Walking the floor over you.
Hola, senors and senoritas, and welcome to another edition of Walking the Floor, America's favorite podcast, with me, Chris Shiflett, holding down the hosting duties as always. Bear with me today, boys and girls. I'm a little tired. I played last night at Dave House's record release party down at the Redwood here in Los Angeles. It was really fun. He was great. Johnny Madcap played too. It was a really good time last night. But I'm feeling it now. But don't worry, kids. I got my coffee. I got it right here. Check it out. We're going to get through it. Tell me, how are you holding up in Donald Trump's America? It seems like America has lost its mind these last couple weeks. Or at least President Trump has lost his mind. But it's heartwarming to see people protesting this goofball and rushing down to the airport. You know, people actually going to the airport on their own accord when they don't even have to travel. It might be the greatest political act of all time. I love it. Keep your head up out there. Keep your chin up. Stay strong. Resist. And while you're doing that, check this out. Some of you listening might know that this week we announced my record and premiered a new single. It's up in Spotify. They're playing it on Outlaw Country on Sirius XM. They premiered it over at rollingstone.com. So if you want to hear it, head on over to rollingstone.com and find that article. We also announced a bunch of tour dates, and that's what I want to get to here right now, because we're looking for some help out there. We're looking for a few good men and women to help spread the good word. So if you want to perhaps get some free tickets or something to some of these shows, why don't you email us at westcoasttowntour@gmail.com and let us know if what you can do. Can you hang up some posters in your town? Can you spread the word? Can you let us know where like the hipster coffee shop is in Ketchum, Idaho, or where the good bookstore is, where the record store is? Does your cousin work at the radio station there? Could we maybe hook up an interview or something? You know what I mean? Like, I don't live in all these places. I don't know the ins and outs of Missoula, Montana, or Spokane, Washington, and that's where we need your help. So join us. westcoasttowntour@gmail.com. Send us an email, let us know, and we will hook you up. I'm talking about March 21st in Portland, Oregon, man. Seattle, Washington, Spokane, Washington, Missoula, Montana, Bozeman, Ketchum, Idaho, Pioneer Town, Flagstaff, Arizona. We're going back to the Museum Club. Can't wait. Los Angeles, San Diego, New York, and Nashville. And there's more to come after that. I'm going to be slipping in some shows, as many as I can, and getting out there. And my buddy Brian Whelan, not only playing guitar with me on this tour, but he's going to be opening all the shows. These shows are going to be really fun. Let's turn them into events. We need your help spreading the good word. Come on, America. Let's do this. All right. Now, before I get out on tour, you know I'm heading over to Zounds.com. Zounds.com. I got to get me some strings, man. I might need to get like a new Telecaster or something. Who knows? I might need a new Vox AC30, and that's why I'm going to go to Zounds.com, because they're going to beat anybody's deal, and they're going to get it to me as fast as they can, so I can be going booty, booty, boot in no time. Zounds.com. Okay, let's get to the interview today, people. Let's go. I like Lee Tasjan for a lot of reasons. First off, snappy dresser. I mean, look at his album cover. Look at those beautiful sequins sparkling in the sunlight. Also, the man played guitar in the New York Dolls a few years ago. So, boom, as a fellow glam rocker, you know, I'm in. That was really it. I was in right there. He had me at New York Dolls. But then beyond that, this guy's a great songwriter, great singer, has made a couple of really good records, and was nice enough to stop by Walking the Floor Studios and talk to me about it. So let's get right to it. This is Lee Tasjan on Walking the Floor.
Please.
Cool. That sounds like it's good. Or it looks like it's good. Cool.
This is a groovy little space over here.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, it's a cool little part of town because, like, as everything's been priced out of Venice,
Right.
it sort of gets pushed this way.
Right,
And then
gotcha.
there's, like, this whole other thing that's happening in, like, Culver City.
Right.
That's kind of hip, and I think it's probably pushing stuff, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like,
so it's
like
all kinda
eventually
coming in from-
It'll just be Venice to Silver Lake. We'll be all connected, but it hasn't,
Beautiful.
you know, this is, like, still kind of like the nether
Right, yeah.
region, you know, but it's getting, like, hipsterized and more every time I come over here.
Totally.
Yeah. So anyway, what brings you to LA? What are you doing out here? Are you on tour?
I am indeed. Yeah, we're on tour with Lucinda Williams, actually.
Ooh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Have you already done your LA show?
Unfortunately, we are not doing the LA show because I have to fly to England and do a Europe tour after we do the San Francisco shows. So
Oh.
had I known that we were going to get offered a Lucinda Williams tour, I probably wouldn't have booked that one. But
Oh, wow. Well, I guess those are good problems to have.
my God, I can't believe I have those problems.
That's all.
I feel
How's
very
the?
fortunate.
Have you been on the road with Lucinda for a while?
Just about a week now.
Oh, okay. How's that going?
Really good, man. She
Cool.
rules.
Really?
And her band is so awesome.
Did you know her at all prior to doing these shows? Or
A tiny little bit. She came to see us sing in Nashville last fall when the record came out, and came backstage after the show and was like super, like really, really like complimentary and very sweet. And she's just like one of those singers that I've been listening to since I was a kid.
Sure.
And she at one point sort of said, "Hey, you're not really saying anything." And I was like, "I'm really sorry, but like I feel like I'm talking to like Bruce Springsteen. Like you are literally like,
Right.
and she was like, "Can we just not do this shit?" And I was like, "Oh, I love you so much. What are you drinking?" And then we had a drink together, and it was really awesome. And
That's so funny.
she called and invited us on tour.
Sometimes that's really like those moments can be really awkward.
I
When
know,
when you just love somebody so much and you feel like you know, in some ways when you're like a fan of somebody that much, it's like you almost feel like you know them in
Yeah.
a way, and then you're like all of a sudden confronted with the fact that you don't at all.
At all, yeah. And you're like, "What do I talk about?"
My wife and I went to go see X a couple of years ago, and I'm like just a huge X fan and a John Doe fan. I've even interviewed him a couple of times.
Cool.
But I still can't get over that sort of fanboy thing. And we went backstage and like talked to him for a minute. And afterwards, my wife was like, "Why are you acting so weird? What is wrong with you? Just talk like you normally talk." I was like, I can't. I don't know. It's impossible. It's so hard. Okay, before we get into all the, you know, your latest record and all that stuff that we will get to.
Sure.
Tell me about playing with the New York Dolls.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
the story there?
Well, okay, so I had a band in New York called Semi Precious Weapons, and we were just kind of trying to get off the ground, and we figured that we needed a manager who sort of understood what we were trying to do, which was a very New York Dolls kind of concept. And
Just in the interest of full disclosure here,
Yes.
you probably don't know this about me. I am a glam rocker at heart. And a huge New York Dolls fan as well. I mean, Hannah Rock's probably my favorite band of all time. And so you played with Sammy, like that. So
course.
there's, like, I was just curious when I saw, because I started like doing a little research before talking to you, and I was like, wait, what? This guy played in the New York Dolls?
Man. Yeah, and so we'd heard about this dude named BP Fallon who was like DJing a night on the Lower East Side at a club called the Delancey, and we went down and we found BP. He had managed Johnny Thunders for a little while, like post Dolls, and had even put together that album So Alone. Like he helped Johnny
really?
produce that record. Yeah. Which I love that album. That album is also special for me because I think it's Chrissy Hynde's like singing debut on that album.
Oh, really?
The first time she ever sang.
Really?
was,
Oh, I
like-
didn't know that.
Yeah, she sang background vocals, I think. I can't remember which song it is on that record. But anyway, so this dude, BP Fallon, we just thought like he'll understand what we're trying to get up to.
Right.
And he sort of like, you know, kind of sort of reluctantly started to like, you know, come check us out and stuff like that. And then we finally like talked him into being our manager. And the first thing that he did for us as our manager, he was buddies with Tony Visconti, and he got Tony to come down and see us play. And when Tony came down to see us play, so did Sylvain and Steve Conti, who was playing the Johnny Thunders guitar parts in the Dolls at that time.
Who now plays with Mike Monroe.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
exactly. And so those guys and I just kind of struck up a mutual, guitar friendship, as you do. And when Steve was having his first child with his wife, he kind of wanted to come off the road for a little bit just so he could be home with the kid. And,
sure.
I just happened to not have a lot going on at the time. He called me up and said, "Hey, man, do you want to do some tours with the Dolls?" And I said, "Heck yes, I do."
Do you want to come out and play the role of Johnny Thunders in the New York Dolls?
Oh, I was
How fun was that?
Could not believe my good fortune.
Wow. How much did you learn his parts and kind of stick to the script, or did you branch out?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Because he had
a very particular style.
He did, man. And there's that sort of that Johnny Thunders like sort of Chuck Berry harmony where he plays the minor stuff over the major chord.
Right.
And I feel like that sound is like such a like integral part of like what made the Dolls have that kind of like sort of it leaned a little, it had kind of an edge to it that like maybe a guitar player who was like playing like the technically right thing,
right.
musically there or whatever, like it wouldn't have had that kind of sound that it ended up having. So I really wanted to make sure that I nailed as much of that as I could.
Oh, that's cool. I think I might have seen you then, because I feel like I saw them. I don't remember exactly. It might have been Steve Conti on guitar still at that point, but I saw them here in LA at the Fonda. Did you play at the Fonda with them?
I did not. No, but that probably would have been Steve.
I'm just projecting your image onto,
I wish.
onto Steve. All right. Anyway, let's talk about your latest album.
Yeah.
It's the production on it is so. What's the right word? It's like shimmers, and it's like, for lack of a better word, it's very, it just sounds really well produced. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's very professional or something, like it's amazing. And stylistically, it kind of jumps around all over the place.
Sure.
So I'm curious. It doesn't sound like your second record. It sounds like your eighth record or something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So tell me the story of making your latest record.
Well,
And I guess before we even get into that, where the fuck did you get that suit you're wearing on the cover?
Well, interestingly enough, the suit, I have a friend named Curtis, who I sort of collaborate with on all the sort of visual aspects of like everything that I do. And, we were trying to figure out like a cover for the record, and I think I'd seen this clip of Tom Waits playing a show, and he had cut up or like smashed up like a bunch of little pieces of mirror and sort of glued them to this hat. And he was singing like Old 55, I think. And it was in this theater, kind of dark theater, and then like for the last chorus, they put this kind of spotlight down over top of him, and it hit the mirror and reflected out and like lit up like the whole theater with just this one like beam of spotlight in his hat. And I was like, man, that's a thing. Like, right. I'll just cover something in a reflective surface, and we'll go take some pictures outside and just like catch the like sunlight like flaring off of like the reflective surface or whatever. And that could maybe be a cool, vibe for an album cover. And so we made that suit, Curtis and I. We went to St. Vincent de Paul, and it cost $7 to buy. And then we went to Michael's craft store and bought every mirrored sequin we could find, and literally like glued them on there one at a time, which took about 2 days to do the whole thing.
Do you put that kind of thought into your live show as well, with as far as like the imagery of it?
Yeah, I think I've sort of as a fellow glam rocker myself, I've always enjoyed the visual aspect of rock and roll as much as the music, and I think it's kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it's cool to like sort of paint different like pictures for people to like latch onto or whatever. And I think the live setting of a show is a great way to just sort of like, visually stimulate people as well as, playing the music. And so, yeah, there's definitely an effort there.
Do you bring a lighting guy with you on tour or anything? Because I'm imagining you like with the house lighting guy. Okay, now in the third song, when we get to the bridge, hit the strobe, motherfucker.
Man. Yeah, and then fog machine. Yeah, no, we do when we can, whenever we can afford it. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good light show is rock and roll, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I used to play in a band from Atlanta, Georgia too, called Driving and Crying, and the singer of that band, Kevin Kinney, he had this kind of like really like crazy lighting setup where he would like go out to the like an IKEA or something, or not IKEA, like a Home Depot or something like that. And you know those kind of lamps that you like can clip on to like
like
thing
when you're
with the
changing your oil or something.
Yeah. And so he'll go out and buy a bunch of those and like change the light bulbs different colors and stuff like that, and like put them like all over his mic stand and stuff like that. So there'll be all these like crazy colors like coming up from the floor. So I've learned a lot from hanging out with him too about lighting concepts, you know.
Yeah, well, it's cool to hear somebody putting thought into that. In like, I mean, I don't know where exactly you label yourself or if you bother to, but like in the world of Americana,
right?
Roots music, you know, it's sort of not the norm,
right?
You know, the norm is to kind of play that shit down, and
totally.
I enjoy seeing somebody step it up a little because I mean, from Buck Owens to Graham Parsons to whoever, like there was some thought put into what those guys looked like when they stepped out. They weren't playing sparkly guitars on accident. You know?
Very true, very very true. And I love that part of that music, and I think, you know, while I also like definitely appreciate the, you know, the earnest thing and this, you know, the being like, you know, this the intense you know, kind of like personal you know, sort of narrative to songs and stuff like that, which I do love and is a part of my thing in certain ways. But like, I also think like it's important to remember that like there are other places to go with it, and there are other like avenues to be explored. And
sure,
I'm kind of a person who like, I kind of get really excited about, you know, trying to figure out a different way around, you know, or a different way into like making Americana music, I guess what they call it these days, I guess. Yeah. I just call it rock and roll.
And in listening to your music, I mean, it definitely like it goes there. It's not like it's just like yippee doo dah, you know what I mean? There's like, you know, it is serious and it is intense, you know, as well as, you know, being maybe a little more lighthearted in other areas, you know. Well,
I think you need some. I think you need a little bit of both to be rock and roll, right? You know, it kind of is the rock and the roll, and like, you know, the sort of like, to me, like the sort of flashier parts or whatever that may potentially turn like some Americana type audience people off. Like that's a really important risk, you know, to kind of like, you got to risk something up there, you know. Sure. It's like, I think, you know, if you're not, then it's not rock and roll.
True that. Okay, so tell me, let's get back into the record. Who produced it and where'd you do it and all that sort of stuff, and who played on it, like all that kind of the inside nitty gritty,
the liner notes. The producer is a buddy of mine named Lee Tasjan, and we met playing together in a band called Everest, which was signed to Neil Young's label Vapor Records.
Goddamn, how many bands you been in already?
A lot. Yeah, there's a long list for sure. But he was just a really, we connected like right away, you know. All music related things aside, like we just connected on like a personal level as well. And he sort of, you know, I was kind of opening those shows as well at the time, just kind of like playing by myself and, you know, telling really weird stories between songs. And like, he just kind of sort of got what I was up to and was kind of like, hey man, like, you know, I think I might know like how to record that, you know, or whatever. Yeah. And I, you know, at the time I hadn't really thought much about making a record. I was just sort of a guitar player really, you know, and, slowly but surely, it kind of just seemed like the right thing to do. And so I called up Eli, and we got our friend Dan Bailey, who was the drummer in Everest at the time. Both Dan and Eli now are the rhythm section for the Father John Misty band. And then we also and we decided, like, Eli and I both really love Daniel Lanois, and like particularly those albums that he made with Dylan, like Time Out of Mind and the Oh Mercy album in the 80s. And on the Time Out of Mind record, they had like some cool double drum stuff going on. So we decided we wanted to have 2 drummers on the record. We brought in this other guy from here in California named Frank Lenz, who played drums with Dan.
Did they track together?
They did. Yeah.
Really?
This whole band, it was a band of like 6 people. David Vandervelde on guitar and lap steel. And then this guy named Max Hart played keys and pedal steel.
I mean, it sounds very orchestrated. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds very like specific. Like, it doesn't sound like just jacking around. You know what I mean?
Which is interesting because we kind of were, honestly. Like,
Really?
But like the you know, I think everybody was just kind of automatically on the same page. It kind of like was a brilliant move from Eli as a producer to just sort of get these people that inherently
we're gonna do that.
we're
thing.
gonna chase the same rainbow.
I mean, were you? Did you sort of talk about like the vision? You know, maybe I know like sometimes when you make records, you reference other songs or other artists. Or, you know, let's kind of try to go for a whatever vibe on this one.
Nothing too specific other than just like the the idea of like double drums. Like one record that we did that we were both sort of listening to a bunch at the time was a Willie Nelson record called Teatro.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's Lanois too. Isn't
It's
it?
also Lanois. Yeah.
Have you watched that movie?
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
It just makes you want to go in the studio so bad.
I know. I really love recording so much. It's one of my favorite things to do. And making this record like with those people, you know, and we recorded at 3 different studios here in California. The first one was in Orange County, and it was a studio that Eli had worked at years ago with another singer named Richard Swift. And so we kind of did like the basic tracking there, and then we went to this place in Van Nuys called New Monkey.
Oh, I've never been there, but I looked at it online. It looks incredible.
It's so cool,
It's
man.
like such a cool vibe in that place.
It's the vibiest. I mean, because it's Elliott Smith's old,
right?
Yeah,
sure.
so it's like, I mean, there's all that like, you know, amazing, beautiful energy there. So it's So we went there and did some mixing and overdubs, and then ended up at our buddy Frank Lenz's little home studio, which he calls Club Casino because it's always a gamble, over in Huntington Beach, and just spent the last couple weeks finishing up the record there, and it was such a like that was really fun too, because it was right by the beach, and you could kind of like get up in the morning and walk down to the ocean and like sort of, you know, get your head together and then go make a bunch of music.
Did you try surfing while you were down there?
I didn't. I would love to try surfing.
Wait, where did you grow up? Where are you from?
Mainly Ohio.
There's not a ton of surf there.
There's not. Buckeye Lake has small waves.
Although, wait, does Ohio border the Great Lakes anywhere? I'm like terrible with I'm going to cut this out of the interview. I'm going to sound like an idiot.
Good, please. Yeah.
Ohio borders Texas, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's
perfect.
the one. Yeah, somewhere in Europe, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was actually born in Wilmington, Delaware. My family moved from there when I was really young to Orange County, California, actually, to San Juan Capistrano.
Oh, okay.
And
you're right at the beach.
yeah, and I lived there, did my middle school years there, which was kind of strange. And then my dad switched jobs again. We moved to Ohio, and I finished out school there.
And when did you start playing?
When we moved to California.
So like junior high kind of age?
Yeah, I was 12, I think, or 13, and the way the school I was attending was structured was like, because of where they were in the curriculum, when we had moved to town, I needed to like wait for like 2 weeks, I think, or something like that to start classes.
Right.
And so I was like, you know, just helping my mom like unpack the house and all that kind of stuff. And we went grocery shopping one day. And right next to the Ralph's was this tiny little guitar shop called Americana Music. And in the sign,
how fitting.
I know, right? Wah, wah, ba-dum-tsh. And in the sign, in the window, in the front window, was a sign that said guitar lessons, first lesson free. And I'd been asking my parents for guitar for like 3 years before that, and they were like, "You don't want that. You're not gonna play. Like, you don't want to do that." And I was like,
It's a fad.
Yeah, exactly.
It's for degenerates.
yeah. You know, you're gonna end up a biker. So anyway, I kind of talked through, you know, since it was free, I kind of convinced her.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, come on. It's not going to cost you anything.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was such a, like, I took guitar lessons from this guy named Franco Landi. And what he did that was really cool was, you know, he taught me songs, you know, because that's what I really wanted to be able to, like, sing and play, like, you know, these Oasis songs that I'd been hearing and, like, you know, just my jams.
Yeah.
And he taught me the songs, but he taught me, like, the music of the songs.
Right.
So I sort of was getting both things at the same time.
Right, sure.
Brilliant.
That was the
teaching
best thing that my first guitar teacher ever did for me. And
Yeah.
I didn't like it at the time. Even though, like, I loved the Beatles, but the first thing he did was make me learn a Beatles for beginners songbook. And as much as, like, you know, I liked the Beatles, you know, but I was like 11 and I wanted to learn Ozzy.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah.
But thank God he made me do that, because it taught me everything I ever needed to know. It taught me all the root chords and how they work together. And, you know, it's like, it's amazing how much that just continues to come back all the time. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, it opens up your mind to all these other things.
So what were you listening to? Like, you mentioned Oasis.
Yeah, that was definitely a big one. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' Greatest Hits was like my Bible when I was, you know, a young Midwestern boy.
Right, sure.
as many a young Midwestern boy.
And how old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that was already, like, kind of retro by that time.
It totally was. But, you know, like, I remember, like, even as, like, a really little kid, like, you know, my babysitter having, like, MTV on, and, like, the video for Mary Jane's Last Dance would come on or something like that. And I was just like, his whole thing, like, appealed to me, like, right from the beginning. You know, it's like
Mike Campbell.
Oh my God.
For a guitar player. He's the man.
Yeah. And the kind of guitars that they played.
Sure.
Even, like, I remember just thinking,
and Rickies and Tellys and boxes
like,
and cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you much of a gear guy? Vintagey gear guy? I'm guessing when I go see you live, you're not playing a Paul Reed Smith. Like
Heavens no. No. I do. I love guitars and I love amps. But I'm not, like, I try to keep it, like, fairly simple, you know. I try to just use, like, exactly what I need, and, like, not any more of that. Like, to me, there's nothing, I guess it's the part of me that just loves Johnny Thunders. Like, there's nothing cooler than plugging a guitar straight into an amplifier and just turning it up and having it do the thing that it does when you do that. You know?
Well, it's always that sort of, there's that thing when you make a record and your record has some cool tones and stuff on it. Like, how much do you try to match what you did on the record, and how much do you just kind of go, you know, it's live, who gives a fuck? Like, let's just let it all hang out. You know?
What do you guys do in your band, like, when you do that? Are you guys, like, pretty specific about it, or?
I mean, my pedal board has grown a lot over the years in trying to sort of chase some of that. Yeah. But unless you're going to bring, like, 10 amps, I feel like you can't really. You know, I have, like, one amp on tour, and I just kind of, if I need to roll some of the gain off, you know what I mean? So you just kind of make it work. It's funny because, you know, I just made a solo record over the summer, and I've been doing a couple of shows, and I'm getting ready to put it out in April, and so we've been playing, and so I've been going through that myself of, like, well, now how do I do this stuff live? And how do I do it and sing at the same time? Totally. And then, like, you know, the dude that produced it, Dave, like, played all the acoustic guitar on it. So now I find myself half the time I'm playing stuff that he played, and I'm like, well, what the hell did he play? I wasn't really paying attention.
I don't even know. Yeah, you got to learn your own record.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's fun, and it just evolves. It just changes. You know, that's just how it goes.
Right.
Anyway, so, like, about what age did you first start playing in bands?
Right away. I mean, I think we formed a bit, like, I got a guitar and we had a band going, like, maybe 2 weeks later. And we only knew 2 songs, one of which was Wonderwall by Oasis, and the other one was My Girl by The Temptations.
Oh, nice. Were you singing as well? Were you always a singer?
Not, I mean, maybe sort of reluctantly so. You know, I really, when I was a guitar player, any band that I was in where I got to sing harmony, I loved.
Right.
I think my goal, like, you know, sort of seeing Oasis as like a kid and like sort of reading some of their interviews and stuff, I thought like, man, if you could be like a Noel Gallagher guy in somebody's band, like, you know, the dude who sort of like, you know, helps with the songwriting or writes some of the songs, but like isn't necessarily the lead singer, but plays some guitar and sings harmony and just gets to vibe out on stage. Like that just seemed like the perfect thing to me.
Right.
But I could just sort of never really like find the right band to like have that dynamic with.
I was gonna say, did years of playing in bands kill that in you to where you just went, actually, I'm gonna be the front man? Never. I had that wrong. I had that backwards.
Yep. I guess it did, man. I guess it did. But I don't regret any of it. I've honestly, like, I've learned something and enjoyed every band that I've ever played in.
I mean, what is it that drew you to being a, you know, solo artist?
I think
I'm not going to coordinate fucking rehearsal with these motherfuckers one more goddamn time.
Yeah, I know. Calendars. Yeah. I think initially it was just something to do when I moved to Nashville. I'd always written songs.
You're in Nashville now? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I'd always written songs and enjoyed the process of writing, but I never really like, you know, did much of anything with it, just because, quite honestly, like I didn't think a lot of it was any good, and I think I was probably right about that. but you know, when I got to Nashville, it was just a much different scene than where I had been living in New York, and the kind of gigs that you could get on guitar in New York, you know, sort of week to week, like for $150 a night or whatever, like to just sort of make ends meet, didn't really exist in Nashville.
I would think it would be the opposite. It seems like Nashville's the type of place that you could play every night if you wanted to, but I've never lived there, so maybe that's my fantasy of it.
I think you can, but nobody really gets paid. Like the local gigs, it's like not a thing to like, you just play with your buddies for free or whatever, because it's just, you know, and then, you know, you have your like touring gig, whatever that is. And that, you know, wasn't really happening for me kind of when I got there. And so I just sort of said, well, you know, I don't know, like I have all this free time. Like I'm just going to like, I want to do something constructive with music every day and do something to like make myself like grow. So I'm just going to write songs like every day. And I did that for like the first 2 years that I was there. And that was when I made one record previous to Silver Tears called In the Blazes, and that ended up being the songs for that first record. But it was a great study in like that Malcolm Gladwell concept of like the 10,000 hours to become like a master of something kind of thing. Because I could really see like, I mean, certainly not.
I've done
from
30,000 hours of procrastinating. That is truly where I excel.
There you go. Me too. I'm sure I could give you a run for your money there. But yeah, it really like, you know.
Do you feel like that like sharpened your songwriting?
Totally.
Tighten it up?
Totally. And it really allowed me on Silver Tears to kind of like just not be super concerned with like, you know, what's the genre of this and like how does it like, you know, I just wanted to like make music that felt like, you know, like the records that I love from, you know, the Beatles or the Stones or whatever, where it's like you put these albums on and like these guys go through like 10 different styles like in one album. Yeah. But they've all like, they're like, you know, their musicality is such that it's sort of like is cohesive within just that, and it's in and of itself. Like the songs don't need to match up perfectly necessarily, because it's more about the people playing the songs and how they're performing them, kind of.
Right. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's like gets into a thing. It's just my own little personal theory of with the way that like Americana and country music has splintered off into a lot of different things. It's sort of like it is country music or it is Americana or roots or whatever, just sort of if you do it. Right. The way that you do it. You know?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to adhere to any one thing or another.
Totally. And I think like that can be, you know, certainly as a songwriter and a recordist, like that can be a very freeing sort of headspace to inhabit, because it kind of allows you to like get out of the sort of mentality of like, oh, well, you know, is this Americana enough, or like whatever, those kind of like pitfalls that like people can fall into sometimes with recording, you know?
Yeah. Tell me about microdosing and the role that played in your latest album.
Well, I was on tour in Omaha, Nebraska with a band called the legendary Shack Shakers, and I was opening up for them. We were playing this place called the Reverb Lounge, and this sort of like crusty old dude kind of like came up after my set, and he was like, "Man, I dug what you did. Like, you look like you could really use this," and like gave me this like balled up like paper napkin that I just sort of looked at suspiciously and went, "Okay, thank you," and like put it in my coat pocket, and sort of didn't think anything more about until I was home after that tour, and I was happened to be wearing that same jacket, and I like reached my hand in the pocket to like try and find something or something like that, and pulled it back out, and like was like, "Oh yeah, this thing, like I wonder what this is," and like expecting some like weird note from him or something like that, and I opened it up and it was like 3 hits of acid. and I was like, man, I haven't like done that in a long time, like since I was a kid. Like, fuck it, like let's go for it. And so like I sort of like I set up this kind of like makeshift sort of like garage band studio like in my living room, because I didn't really have any like proper recording gear at the time,
right?
So I just had like some like Radio Shack level like USB microphones and stuff like that I just sort of plugged in and like, you know, hung from the ceiling fan or whatever, and just kind of and just sort of like took a little bit at a time like throughout the day, and just kind of like stayed in this kind of like like suspended kind of state. And what
does that do when you like? I'd never even heard of microdosing until I actually read that you had done that in writing some songs for this record. So do you get to the point of hallucination, or do you just kind of have that like, you know, that feeling right when you're about to come on to acid where you're like, it's almost like ecstasy.
Exactly.
Maybe not.
And it's very euphoric. Like it, you know, and it just kind of like, it keeps you sort of buzzing. Like, you know, it's almost like the old hippie speedball, the joint and the coffee, you know, it's just like, it keeps you like, I mean, at least for me anyway, it just sort of kept me like very energetic and kind of engaged in what I was doing. And I ended up I wrote Ready to Die, Where the Road Begins and Ends, Dime, and Little Movies all that day.
Really? In one day?
In one day.
Wow.
I wrote all those songs. Yeah.
That's discipline right there, man.
I just basically got up and like started taking the acid and like started doing that. It was like maybe 11 in the morning. And it was like 6 a.m. the next day, like by the time I was finished. But like,
really,
you know, I had those songs, and those songs kind of ended up being sort of like the building blocks for that whole album after that.
Right. Interesting. So that was like the first batch that came.
Yeah.
So how did you put out your first record yourself, right? And then so how did you wind up? You're on New West now, right?
Yeah.
How did that come together?
We had, you know, like many stories in the music business, we kind of had some mutual friends who had been, you know, sort of saying like, hey, you know, you guys might like dig each other or whatever. Like maybe you should get together. And it was like, at New West, John Allen, who's the president there, had been formerly running a publishing company called Bug Music. And I had a band called the Madison Square Gardeners from New York, and we would come and play Nashville every once in a while. And John Allen, when he was working at Bug Music, would come see us play and like talk to me about songs and stuff like that, and was a really cool guy. And so I already knew him a little bit, and I had a really good feeling about him as like a dude, and like and I really respected his musical opinion and stuff. And then the lady who's doing A&R there, who signed me, Kim Bowie, I knew who she was, you know, from like just sort of being like a musical like historian, I guess, or what, just like a dude that's like into like reading the liner notes of stuff, and like I'd seen her name and like Ryan Adams records certainly, and like,
oh really, why did she signed him?
She was at Lost Highway for a long time, and but nobody A&Rs Tom Waits, but like she like helped Tom with whatever he needed for his records in the 90s that he was making at Island. And,
Okay.
so I just knew like she'd been involved with stuff that like I really respected and like thought was like really great music. And it just seemed kind of like the right thing at the right time. I'd made that In the Blazes record and done some touring, and things were sort of slowly starting to like move in a direction of like, maybe I could do this for a living actually. And they just kind of showed up like right about then. And we had, one or two nice conversations, and they said, well, what's your next, what are you going to do next? And I said, well, I made these demos of like, of these songs, and, 4 of which would
I'm
be
gonna
acid.
take some acid, and
I failed to mention that part. But I did give them the thing, and they were like, it was like a Friday afternoon, and they were like, okay, cool. Well, we'll take this home and like listen to it over the weekend, and like we'll call you next week and tell you what we think. And I was like, okay, cool, and never expecting like anything at all. And they literally called me like an hour later and were like, we want to put this out.
really,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's like storybook,
Yeah,
that's
pretty much.
cool. I mean, like in my mind, New West is a big, small label.
Yes, totally.
Like, how do they support you, like putting the record out and getting out on the road? And,
I mean, it's like it's an interesting time to be putting out records because nobody buys them, but.
and nobody knows quite what to do with them.
Exactly.
And every time you put one out, it's a new, like, this is going to be the thing.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of like, it all seems like one big marketing plan that sort of works, but like, never really like gets to the spot that everyone's hoping it will. But I will say, like, for our record, like the thing that's been cool about working with those guys is sort of like how creative they are, and they've allowed me to be with that side of what we've been doing to sort of promote the record. For example, like the day the record came out in Nashville, there's a song on the album called 12 Bar Blues, and so the day the record came out in Nashville, we rented a party bus and took any of our fans that wanted to go on it with us for free. We like got all this beer and stuff like that, and drove around, and I played songs in 12 different bars.
Oh, wow.
That day we just did like a mini tour of Nashville, and we live streamed the whole thing on Facebook.
Really?
And like, yeah, and kind of like, and so like our record release show was like 12 like, or 11 like mini gigs,
Right,
and then
right.
like the big thing at like 3rd and Lindsley, like at the end of the
cool.
at the end of the deal or whatever.
How the hell were
which
you
was
still
really fun.
standing after doing an 11 bar crawl?
I don't know. I will say this. I think I got drunk like 3 or 4 different times that day.
Right.
And then would sort of be like, oh, I got to pull it back.
Yeah, hold on, give me a water.
Yeah,
Hold on.
exactly. Yeah. And then I would get myself back together, and then just I make poor decisions. What can I say?
Don't we all? Well, that leads me to a question, because I'm putting together some shows. Where should I play in Nashville? I don't know, like, the club scene there.
Yeah,
at all,
there's
where's like a cool teeny weeny little room that I could come play and it'll be like a good vibe.
There's some great ones. There's some really, really great ones. There's a place called The Basement.
Okay.
There, that's like right below this really awesome record shop called Grimey's Records. Have you ever,
I've actually played there.
Yeah. Oh, you have played there.
We did a Foo Fighter did we play there? I feel like we did
The
play
in-store
there.
or something, or
I know I went to an in-store there. I think
Yeah.
we did a party there. I don't think we played there.
Yeah.
We might have played there one. Anyway, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
But yeah,
about.
it's this cool. It's like right below the record store,
Yes.
and it's really vibey, and it just feels like where I grew up. Like bands, there weren't bars really in my little podunk town in Ohio, so like we would just play in like our friends' parents' basements.
Sure.
It's like, hey, we're having a gig at the Johnson house, like come on by.
Totally.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it kind of has that feel, which I love, and it's like it's a good little rock club, and the PA sounds really good in there, and like
I'm gonna look into that.
In.
That seems like the place.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
So what's next for you? You going to continue touring? You said you got these Lucinda dates, and you've got then you're going to Europe.
Going to Europe, yeah.
Nice. You've been over there before?
I have. I mean, just in other band. I've never like sung my own music over there or anything, but I've been over there a bunch, and I can't wait to go back. It's one of my favorite places to travel to. So
cool. And then what? Just keep on linking it together all year.
We're playing like a ton of festivals, which I'm super excited about. Bonnaroo, and we're doing the Stagecoach Festival out here, and Newport Folk, and a bunch of stuff. So
Newport Folk Festival, that's a good one to have on your resume.
Yeah, man,
that's cool.
I can't wait.
Is somebody gonna cut cut the cable?
The old Pete Seeger move. Probably.
I'll dress up like Pete Seeger and do that if you want.
Thank you.
You have to fly me in.
Yeah, all right, that's cool.
I'll totally do it.
We'll get the budget together.
Yeah, good.
It's a really like I actually went to Newport a couple years ago and was really impressed by sort of how diverse the lineup is now. I mean, there were like all kinds of versions of, sort of roots based music kind of happening, know, but like really like it's kind of cool. I feel like that festival like makes a point to sort of include the people who would sort of be even on the outlying parts of that, because it makes for a richer musical experience, I think.
Have you been to Stagecoach before? Have you ever played out there?
I never have.
I played there a few years ago.
Yeah.
I was impressed. But it's the same kind of thing,
right?
Where there's a bunch of different stages. So there's everything from like the most mainstream modern country type stuff,
sure,
to like Marty Stewart's over here and Dwight Yoakam, and then there'll be some like a bluegrass band and like everything in between. You know? Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll love it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So yeah, we're on tour forever.
Cool.
We'll be out there.
Awesome. I'm happy for you. It's cool to see somebody doing what you're doing out there.
Thank you, man.
So keep
Thanks,
it up,
Chris. Really
do you want to play a song?
Sure.
I don't know if
absolutely
you were
I can do that.
Told that is sometimes an option.
Sure.
And people can also not play songs, man. We're all free to do whatever, bro.
You can not play.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but I have a really bad black eye right now. I mean, you can barely see it, right? It's funny. I meant to like, when you got here, go like, hey man, I'm sorry I look like I live under a fucking pier. But then I forgot, and then we started talking, and then I remembered midway through the conversation, like, oh my God, he's probably sitting there going like, this guy's a meth head. Like, why am I in this guy's room right now? But I swear, I got elbowed in the eye playing soccer.
Oh,
It was very...
I mean, not nice, but
not nice.
Soccer's fun, though.
But it's way better than getting beat up outside a liquor store or something.
Indeed, yeah, truly.
But it's funny because the thing is, when you have a black eye,
right,
immediately people look like it changes your position in society. You know what I mean? Yeah. You all of a sudden become like, whoa, that guy's like a junkie. Get away from him.
Yeah, I don't know. Watch out for that one. Yeah.
Here, I'm going to flip this around.
Okay. Well, this is a song off the Silver Tears record called Success. You gotta write what you know. Tell me what's the matter with your success ladder. You never end up on top. Fixated on feeling high up as the ceiling. When will it ever stop? Well, it's only money, eating like a honey, pure as Mother Nature intends. Oh, it's mostly real dirty. In about every 30 days it goes away again. Say success ain't about being better than everyone else. It's about being better than yourself. Say success ain't about being better than everyone else. It's about being better than yourself. Mercedes through the streets of hate. Is everybody
alright. Say success ain't about being better than everyone else. It's about being better than yourself. Say success ain't about being better than everyone else. It's about being better than yourself. Alright.
Very nice. Thanks, man.
That's the most guitar shrouping performance I think I've had on this here podcast to date.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go all Clapton unplugged on you.
Oh, please. Keep going. We should have done like an instructional guitar section. Like Aaron's favorite lick.
In the Memphis rain.
All right, that was Aaron Lee Tasjan doing his song Success from his latest album, Silver Tears, where he's got that beautiful sequin suit on the cover. You can't miss it. Okay, make sure you go to AaronLeeTasjan.com, check out his tour dates, or you can find him on Twitter at AaronLeeTasjan1. He's out there on the road, bringing it to the people. Okay, make sure you go to the iTunes store and check out all our previous interviews on Walking the Floor. There's a gazillion of them up there, and we'll be back next week to bring you another. Keep your head up, people. Adios, amigos!